Welcome to Conflict News 2042. After a break of a few days, I am back on this channel. President Putin of Russia just a few minutes ago delivered a speech. He addressed his nation. Everyone has been waiting for his speech. Almost a year ago, Russia-Ukraine war started. What is the Russian president saying now? Any signs of an end to this war? How did Russian president try to defend this war, and what did he say about use of nuclear weapons? What is economic situation in Russia? Was Russia disturbed because of sanctions? He criticized West as well. We have detailed analysis of Russian president's speech. He addressed Duma members, around 90-minute long speech. Firstly, President Putin focused a lot on economy, on financial stability in his speech. He tried to prove that Russian economy is largely undisturbed. Though Russia was put under sanctions, it was being speculated by West that Russian economy would contract by 20 to 25%, but Russian economy contracted, GDP contracted by only 2.3%. Secondly, he claimed that unemployment has declined in Russia from 4.7 to 3.7%. He claimed that agriculture, housing, other sectors are seeing progress and development. So largely, he summed up that Russian economy has been able to sustain the pressure which was exerted on this economy because of sanctions, because of other measures by West and US. And he talked about other indicators to prove that there is financial stability in Russia. That Russia was relying on West in terms of being a source of supplies to West, but Russia is now finding new partners, and Russian economy is in a good position. A very important point is this one because he focused a lot on this point. Secondly, he reiterated Russian position about the start of this war. Rationale behind the start of this war, Putin claims, is US and West efforts to create a unipolar world, that after the Second World War, after the breakup of the USSR, US has been trying to impose global hegemony. And that is why before last year, the start of war, efforts were underway to encircle Russia. And he started his speech from 2014, that in 2014, an anti-Russia government was put in place in Ukraine. An effort was made to create distance between ethnic Russians in eastern Ukraine and Russia. Their identity was in danger. Neo-Nazis were imposed in Ukraine, and it was an attempt to make Ukraine a staging ground for action against Russia. Weapons were brought close to Russia, and trainings started. Purpose was to encircle Russia. Russia tried to avoid this confrontation, but Russia had to go for a special military operation in Ukraine because it is an existential war. It's an existential threat for Russia that Russia is fighting. Russia is not committing any aggression. Secondly, he tried to explain the rationale behind this war, that it is war for self-defense. War because it's an existential threat, and it's basically the West, US and Kiev regime which are colluding to destroy Russia and Russians. Thirdly, I think he implied that war would go on for a long time. I mean, no immediate end is in sight. Why? Because he announced that mass production of weapons is going to start. He announced an incentive for the employees of defense sector, and he announced the establishment of a special fund for the families of those who have died in this war, for the families of veterans as well. So these incentives announced to make people feel at ease a little that the war will go on, but government is trying to take care of the people, and government is trying its best to help the people through one window operations. Fourthly, he criticized the West. He said same-sex marriages are being accepted by bishops, by religious figures in the West. Even pedophiles are acceptable in some cases, and it is against religious scriptures. Family institution has been destroyed in West, and now West was to destroy Russia as well. But Russians will build on their own traditions and values. They will not let the US and West decide the new world order. He did not speak a lot about military battlefield situation. What are Russian targets? How many targets achieved in the battlefield? He just said that step by step, Russian military is achieving the targets. Russian military, Lugansk, Donetsk fighters in Donbass, they are achieving their objectives. He spoke about strategic weapons too, nuclear weapons. He mentioned Russia-US strategic weapons agreement, but he refused to give access to outsiders to Russian bases. He said that it is the West which is providing support to Ukraine for attacks on Russian strategic bases. So how can Russia allow outsiders to inspect Russian bases? He announced that Russia would not strike first in terms of nuclear strike, but Russia has the right to defend its territories. So overall, we can say that Putin is sending a message to the West that Russia will keep on fighting, and 1 year of war does not mean that Russia is on the back foot. Russia will not make any compromise. Secondly, he tried to create a unity. Some moving scenes were seen at the speech at the Duma, where people gave standing ovation at the end. National anthem was played, and several times during the course of the speech, people rose and they clapped. So overall, it was a charged crowd, you can say. He tried to charge the people by talking about Russia, Russian values. He addressed Russian compatriots too. We know that properties, yachts, villas, luxury villas of Russian businessmen, Russian celebrities across the world have been seized by governments, Western governments, US as well. He addressed them. He said, you should spend, you should invest in Russia because you are third-grade citizens in those countries. And now you have realized that all your income has been seized by the countries. Now you'll keep on running to the courts to defend, but you'll not be able to defend. So come back to Russia, invest in Russia. And he announced that Russia would improve its ties with its partners. Overall, we can say that Putin is saying that Western West free economy is being built in Russia. Russian economy will no longer be reliant on West. Secondly, Russia, rest of the world relations are entering a new phase. Russia is looking for new partners, economic partners, strategic partners, military partners. And it wants to create a new bloc, economic, regional, military. And thirdly, Russia says that its capabilities in terms of defending of its territories are intact. Russian military has not suffered any major losses. Rather, the progress is ongoing. Though we know that Russia has revised its plans, military plans, several times in the start of this war. When the war broke out last year, Russia tried to take control of Kiev, Ukrainian capital, through some airborne operations, through entry from Belarus, but Russia could not, and then Russians had to retreat. Then we saw a second retreat when Russians retreated from across Dnieper River. They retreated to the left side of Dnieper River because they could not hold on to the positions across the river. And Russians lost lots of territories in Kharkiv as well. So Russians have suffered territorial losses, but now they have set up some defense lines. And from these defense lines, they are progressing rapidly. Not rapidly, they are progressing steadily and slowly in Donetsk, and they are making gains. Pace is slow, but now they are taking lesser losses. And he talked about long-range weapons too. You know that Ukraine is starting to receive weapons which are being denied to Ukraine a few months ago. Tanks are being received, missiles as well. Russia says that the greater the range of these supplied weapons is, the farther away from Russian territories would be removed the threat to Russia. It means that if long-range weapons are supplied to Ukraine by Western countries, Russia will spread this war. Overall, not a good sign for the end to this conflict. There was nothing said by Putin in the speech which could be interpreted as an offer of peace. Basically, he was addressing his people. He was telling them that everything is all right, economy stable. Rather, we have made some progress in some economic sectors. So let's unite and neutralize this threat, which is existential threat to Russia. Let's see how the other side responds to this speech. Know that Joe Biden was in Ukraine around 24 hours ago. West, US, they have stepped up. They have been providing all types of support to Ukraine. This is not just war in terms of militaries. It's an information war. It's a military war, a social war as well. War between two giants of the global politics. And so far, no end seems to be in sight. Thanks for watching.